Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Trea Drake, breathing coach, meditation expert, Maga black belt, and we'll learn from him about how mindfulness and breathwork can enhance well-being, athletic performance, and personal growth. Welcome to the show, Trey.
So happy to be here.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Trey. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll be learning from you about the power of breath and mindfulness. In this backdrop, we'll have our conversation. But before that, Trey, if we can understand a bit more about your journey, your background, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
Yeah, that's a long, windy journey, but I spent a good portion of my adult life as a behavior analyst. I worked in a pediatric psychology clinic, and overlapping with that a little bit was starting to train in Krav Maga, and I've been doing that for 18 years now. Just recently earned third degree instructor black belt in Krav Maga, and also been in the fitness industry during that time. And I enjoy doing things like long 26.2 mile ruck marches, carrying heavy weight on my back, just for the physical and mental challenge of it all. And got into meditation about almost 30 years ago, a little less than 30 years ago. And that's been an incredible journey. And recently, over the last 10 years, started combining breath work. And I really found that there's a fantastic synergy between breath work and mindfulness to get combined together.
Absolutely. So help us understand. We all know about breath. People also, lot of people also know about mindfulness.
Sure.
But do we actually know the way you would want them to know? Tell us a bit about breath work. Tell us a bit about mindfulness, so that we get your understanding and try to get from that.
Yeah, there's a couple of things there that come to mind. First of all, I know for myself, and this may be the case for a lot of people, I've heard this from a lot of people anyway, that they can spend a lot of time sitting on a cushion and practicing mindfulness, right? I know I spent probably the first decade at least sitting on the cushion for 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, an hour at a time. And then once I got off the cushion and went into my daily life, it's as if I never sat on the cushion. There was no automatic transfer from the skills that I was practicing while in that sit into everyday life. I had to find a good teacher that knew how to take those skills and teach you how to systematically transfer them, generalize them into everyday life. So I think that was one of the most profound experiences for me, was figuring out how to do that. Because that was the goal, ultimately, was to engage in mindfulness, to have a better life and to be a better human being. And so once I figured out how to make that shift off the cushion into daily life, everything turned around for me in that regard. When it comes to breathing, yeah, go ahead.
Carry on.
Yeah, when it comes to breathing, I realized I was listening to a podcast with Dr. Belisa Vranich, who is one of my favorite people in the breathing space. And she was listing all these aberrant breathing pattern disorders that humans find themselves in accidentally just by transferring to school. It's around the age of 5.5 that the average person goes to school in America, and everything starts to change in terms of the way they breathe. And they go from breathing normally. All mammals know how to breathe. Instinctively, we know how to breathe. And then we change the way we breathe around 5.5 because usually of social reasons, right? Somebody comes up to you at school, pokes you in the belly, tells you that you're fat, you suck your belly in, and then you walk around the rest of your life with that contracted belly. And it causes all kinds of problems because your diaphragm can no longer work the way it's supposed to because you're restricting it. And I realized when she was listing those breathing pattern disorders that I had every one of them. So that set me on the journey to address my own personal breathing and then also to start teaching other people how to breathe properly.
Right, right. Let's understand breathing first. So, breathing is we don't breathe, we die. And then once we breathe the way, the right sort of breathing, then it gives us calmness.
Mm,
It also extends our life.
yeah.
What is the difference between the normal breathing and the breathing that can extend our, calmness as well as life? Help us understand that. What is the correct way to breathe?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's important to understand that there is a instinct to breathe. There is a reflex to breathe, and if we just allow ourselves to let that reflex go, let it do its thing, instead of trying to control the breath all the time, what the reflex really wants us to do is to have a nice subtle breath in, nice subtle breath out, and then a slight pause between the breath and then just allow the next reflex. And we know the reflex through subtle air hunger, right? So you breathe in, you breathe out normal. There's that space between the breaths. If you just prolong that space, don't interfere with it. Just let it be its thing. You're going to feel that reflex to take that next breath in and just allow that reflex to occur on its own. That's one of the best things that we can learn as human beings. And then the next thing is to know where to breathe. Most people are breathing up. 95% of the population is breathing high in their body, up high in the chest, and they're using their neck muscles and their subclavicular muscles here to breathe. Instead, let's take that breath down to the middle of the body, right at the bottom of the rib cage, right here at the bottom of the rib cage.
Oh,
It's not about belly breathing. It's about allowing the rib cage to do what it was designed to do. The rib cage is at the bottom of it. You think about the sternum down to the bottom of the ribs on the side. It forms a triangle, and it's a triangle for a reason. The idea is when you breathe in, the bottom of that triangle is allowed to expand out. When you breathe out, the bottom of that triangle comes back in. So if we just relearn what we already know how to do and allow our body to do what it's supposed to do, what it's designed to do, beautifully designed to do, right? To keep us alive. Once we go back to breathing the way we're supposed to breathe, a lot of the calmness that we look for is already there. We just have to allow it, right? So we start breathing normally down at the bottom of the rib cage, and you'll be amazed at just the weight that seems to be off of you because you're no longer contracting around the rib cage all day long. There's no reason to carry that weight around. Just relax. Allow the rib cage to do its thing, and that calmness starts to come automatically. Now you obviously have other breathing practices like breathing in for 4, breathing out for 8, that are calming practices that you may need throughout the day just because life throws things at you, stressors at you, right? And you can use those practices. I love them. I incorporate them all the time. One of my favorites is the physiological sigh that Andrew Huberman talks about, right? Double inhale, slow exhale. It's a well-researched technique at this point, and it's one of the best techniques that you can use in terms of calming your nervous system. But we know a ton of those types of techniques. To me, it's about how are you walking around all day long breathing, and just go back to what your body already knew how to do before you turned 5 or 6 years old.
absolutely. So, what you talk about, that people misunderstand about breathing. What is it that they misunderstand about breathing?
Oh, this is one of my favorite topics. I would say that the biggest misunderstanding that I hear is, and that I see people just because I'm in the fitness and Krav Maga space, we do a lot of intense work. Just imagine hitting a bag as hard and as fast as you can and having to do self-defense techniques while you're doing that. It's uncomfortable in the body to be doing that. And people get intense air hunger, which means that they want to breathe in more. That's their desire, is to breathe in more. And they also have this psychology behind it that if I breathe more often at a higher frequency and at a higher depth, then what's going to happen is I'm going to bring in more oxygen. And the opposite is actually true. What you want to do, regardless of the activity that you're engaged in, is breathe according to the metabolic demands of the activity itself, right? So if we're sitting here just talking to each other and say you're talking and I'm listening, I'm probably breathing at about 12 times per minute. If I'm just sitting and listening to somebody and I'm breathing 20 times per minute, that is way too much. And so it's this belief that if I breathe more, I'm going to get more oxygen. But what actually happens in the body is as you breathe too much for the metabolic demands of the activity that you're engaged in, what happens is CO2 levels drop. You breathe out too much CO2. You get vasoconstriction throughout the whole body, but including the brain. And this is where people will start to feel tingliness, for example, in their fingers. If you do long breathwork sessions, this is one of the reasons that people get tetany, which is the cramping of the hands and the fingers, that type of thing. And it doesn't take very long off-gassing so much CO2 that you actually get 50 to 60% restriction of blood flow to the brain. So none of this ultimately is good for you, especially if you're walking around all day long, breathing too much. And oftentimes we're breathing too much and don't realize it. And it's because we're in our heads. We're thinking about the past, which tends to bring about depression. And we're thinking about the future, which tends to bring about anxiety. And any of those things can make us breathe too much for the metabolic demands of the physical activity that we're currently engaged in. And doing that chronically, consistently over the course of time can be detrimental.
Right. Let's now look at mindfulness. How should one understand about mindfulness? Here also you talk about misunderstanding about, meditation. Also, is there a meditation a problem with mindfulness that people understand it differently?
I think the biggest challenge with mindfulness is understanding that there's not a certain number of minutes that you need to do in order for it to be effective. That just 10-second duration mindfulness periods throughout the day can have a profound impact because they're cumulative. So one of my favorite practices to do throughout the day is, I don't know how many times I walk through a door. It's probably 100 times a day. But regardless of the door that I walk through, I try to open the door mindfully, actually feel the physical movement of opening the door. I'm also taking the opportunity to check in with the body and make sure that all is well, right? I walk through the door and then I close that door. Even if it closes automatically, I won't allow it to close automatically. I'll sit there and I'll close the door myself. And whether it's just a doorway from one room to the next, or the refrigerator, or a cabinet, whatever it is, opening, closing anything throughout the day, that's an opportunity to bring mindfulness. Any transition from one place to the next is an opportunity to bring mindfulness, bring rest into the body. Although you may be in a hurry from walking from point A to point B, you can move quickly, but also bring rest to the body at the same time. For me, that turned out to be a superpower, because what happens is if we focus on good mindfulness during transitions, it develops a sort of momentum with your practice. And so when you go into the next interaction with a person or your next meeting, whatever it might be, you're going to be more skillful because you've been practicing mindfulness all the way up until that moment during that transition. So what happens is those little moments of mindfulness build momentum throughout the day and have a cumulative, powerful effect.
Right, Trey. So someone will say, Trey, this is what this is doing is what I am doing naturally without even noticing is my muscle memory. I should use my muscle memory. Let that brain use it automatically. Why bother myself? I am saving my mind a lot of trouble by not being, bothering about those small things, opening the door, closing the door. How should one look at it? Which is, when is muscle memory good and when is this mindfulness thing good? What does it bring that muscle memory will not bring?
Yeah, there's a time and place for everything, right? So if for example I'm in a drill for Krav Maga and I have 3 people around me who are trying to attack me in a variety of ways, there's no thinking. It's just allowing that process to happen and relying on that muscle memory and the training that I've engaged in. But then when I'm transitioning from point A to point B, as much as I can, I bring mindfulness and rest to the body, because what it does is it makes me more skillful throughout the day, regardless of what I'm doing. But most importantly, it makes me more skillful in interactions with other people because of that small practice. Um, it's also good for just awareness in general, because in particular during transitions, I like to be mindful of the space around me. This is part of my self-defense training, is being mindful of space, right? What's going on around me? Who's around me? What are obstacles around me? Whatever it might be. I can be aware of all of that and also bring calmness to the body and to the mind, so that I can be effective at whatever it is I'm engaged in.
Absolutely, absolutely, Trey. Let's talk about breathing and mindfulness for athletic performance. That is what you
Mhm.
talk about. How does this impact athletic performance? And is it only for athletes? How should I look at it from a very common, normal person's point of view? This thing,
Yeah,
what,
that's
how
great.
to get the best out of this, like an athlete?
Sure. Yeah. So for the everyday person that is not interested in being an athlete, but maybe they just want to work out, or if it's somebody that doesn't even do physical exercise, getting really good at going back to our breathing roots and getting really good at breathing at the right location, at the right pace, those types of things can be really powerful in terms of a person's overall sense of wellness. When it comes to physical exertion, physical exercise, and athletic performance, I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make is they move from nasal breathing to mouth breathing way too fast. One way to think about this is we have, similar to a car, we have breathing gears that we can use with our own body and mind. Three of those gears, the first three, are through the nose only. So first gear is what you and I are doing right here while we're talking to each other, sitting and listening, is we're breathing through our nose, nice and smooth. There's no hurriedness about it, just in and out through the nose, nice and relaxed. And breathing gear number two is going to be in through the nose fast, out the nose relaxed. Gear three is in and out the nose, power for both of them, in, out. By this time, most people are already breathing through their mouth. It's way too early. They're going to off gas too much CO2. Gear four is in through the nose, out the mouth. Gear five is in and out through the mouth, like you're running, right? Running as fast as you can. Most people go from gear one to gear five. If you do that in a car, you're in gear one and you try to go to gear five, what happens? The car doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't go anywhere fast anyway, right? So if we think about the same thing is happening with our body, it's a powerful transition to start working in that way. And because you try to expand your capacity through nasal breathing, right? What I mean by capacity is you teach yourself to nasal breathe, but still be able to have high level performance. I don't know if you've seen this, but there are people running sub 3 hour marathons with their mouth closed the whole time, nasal breathing exclusively. And if you watch the Olympics, there were Olympic sprinters who were sprinting for long distances really fast, but they were doing it with nasal breathing only, never opening their mouths. So the average everyday person who's doing a workout, there's no reason to open our mouths. We should be breathing through our nose to get all the benefits of breathing through the nose, in addition to making our breathing system more efficient. Over the course of time, a little bit of training, you can make your breathing system about 20% more efficient just by breathing through the nose only.
Right. So, in terms of mindfulness and breathing, how much should we spend time in this sort of, breath work or breathing? How
Mm.
much will be enough for a common person? And
Mhm.
even for mindfulness, what are some of the things that they can do so that their life is much more energetic with those transitions?
Yeah, my attitude is to, as much as possible, put these practices into your already scheduled life, right? Instead of saying, "Oh, there's just one more thing that I have to schedule throughout the day." Uh, if you do mindfulness as you're walking through doors, you don't have to do the 10-minute sit, and you still can if you want to, but it's not necessary. You can put mindfulness throughout your day. Think about everything that we see, hear, and feel throughout the day, externally and internally. And just go about your day and bring appreciation to the bird that I see right now on the bird feeder outside the window, right? Take a moment, really take that in, use that concentration power, that sensory clarity, and really take that moment in, right? And truly experience it. Getting out of the head, not thinking about the past, not thinking about the future, but being fully in the present moment and really appreciating the things that are around us, appreciating the positive aspects of our experience. If we just do that, life can be so much more profound and just incredible, right?
Absolutely. Life can indeed be so profound and incredible. There is much to learn from you about all these things, about breath work, about mindfulness, about meditation. And I'm sure a lot of people would want to connect with you. What is the best way for them to do so, Trey?
Well, I'm on most social media, in particular Facebook and Instagram under Trea Drake, and also Nervous Apes. And also my website is nervousapes.com.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.